that's very, very dangerous.
Get these spidey sense, I was like, oh, something's off.
And I'm just like, man, I'm waiting to hear something,
Keep that crowd warmed up. Is Mr. Jehovah Tiger.
What's going on, guys? And welcome to another edition, the final edition of the Warcry podcast. I lost where I was going with that. But the final episode, final interview of 2024. Welcome to the Warcry podcast. I am your host, Jehovah Tiger, and on this wonderful edition, as you guys can tell, my water filter is in the background. If it starts flashing, y'all let me know in case in case something's watching me. No, I'm just kidding. But welcome to the Warcry podcast. On this episode, we're bringing back a third. He's a third edition guy. He's been on this podcast 3 times. But before we get to him, please, for the podcast, if you listen to this, wherever you listen to it, if you're here live with me, or if you're here, listening to this later, please like and comment. So just hit the like button. Easy. I'm like those other YouTuber guys that just be like, hey, hit the like, comment, But hit the like, comment. It definitely helps the podcast. And it definitely puts it in the algos. I have had so many people. To me, so many is, a little bit amount, but I've had people reach out like, hey, I heard your show on YouTube. Saw you on TikTok, saying, oh, I heard this, heard that. And I actually got a third witness to the casino Bigfoot come forward who worked in the Buffalo fields out there. So it's crazy. I appreciate everyone who supports the podcast. That's a free way to support the podcast, like and comment. But I do have a Patreon. The link is in the description below. There's going to be a format change. Like I said, I mentioned this a lot of times throughout, so you are not shocked by this. But the podcast is still going to do YouTube, still going to be doing all that good stuff. But Patreon was going to have a lot of exclusive content. I'm going to work out a part 2 with Miss Rebecca, who's seen the Lucky Star Casino, footage. That's going to be a Patreon only. You're not going to get that anywhere else. It's $5 a month. I have the guys, the paranormal team out in Maine. I'm going to have them on, exclusive only, and a few other people. So I still will be doing, like I said, the shows on YouTube and in the podcast. It's just you're not going to get them early, I guess you could say. You're going to get them, a couple days later, maybe a week later. But Patreon's going to get everything first. So hit the description below, Patreon. And like I said, guys, I appreciate the continued support. 2025 is going to be a big year for us, me, podcast, us, everybody in general. So I appreciate the continued support. And let's get to the episode. So this gentleman, I would probably say he's one of my first listeners, I'd say. Well, one of my first listeners who had reached out to me. I appreciate him very much. We always be, chatting it up on Facebook. We always be kind of cracking each other up. But he had my first ever interview. At the time, I was scared to do interviews. I was kind of nervous about doing them because, I don't want to be bad at it, but that happens. But he joined me. I asked him a few questions. He sent me a few audio clips, and we put it together, and made a pretty good episode. It's a pretty high up there episode for me, in terms of my audio podcast. And then he came back and did a second episode interview, and that is the highest ranking episode for my podcast, for the Warcry podcast. He's got quite a few views. But y'all wanted to hear that, these Appalachian story, and different kind of crazy things that goes on. And he has stuff happens, all the time. But joining me to the show, Mr. Derek Morris. How you doing, Derek?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me again. Been a minute.
It's been a minute. I've been holding this one up in the tuck. I said, I'm gonna see if he can come on for the last episode, last interview, 2024, and I appreciate you.
Well, thank you again for having me. Had to write some stuff down this time. I don't know, maybe think I'm running low on stories, but then again, I'm at work or something, and it's I think of one more that I need to tell. It's always got one more story.
Yep. And that's the beautiful thing about doing podcasting. And people will tell us, "Oh yeah," and you just remember something. But for those who have not, and they're brand new, they're like have never. This is their first time joining in. Um, you know, where are you kind of located? You don't have to give your exact location, but could you give us some background on kind of who you are if they haven't heard you on this show?
Well, my longitude is 760.14. If you look at your map, I'm in the very northeastern tip of Tennessee. Like you could throw a rock and the rock would land in North Carolina. So I'm pretty much right here at the tip of Tennessee in the Appalachian Mountains. So I'm maybe a little bit older than some of your listening audience. I'm in my early 50s now. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I've been married for 20 years now. Traditional powwow dancer. Eastern Mounted Cherokee Indians. And I'm just a plain ordinary guy. I'm just run of the mill. I work in a factory. That's kind of it, man. I guess kind of boring if you think about it, but sometimes life throws you these little curveballs that kind of makes you question what's really going on.
For sure. And when I first started communicating with you, you get up at like literally the ass crack of dawn. Like literally, the dawn hadn't even. It's not even there yet. And you hit me up one morning as you're going to work, and you sent me a video. And, you sent me multiple videos, and um, on this channel, I have posted a few of those videos in my shorts, video shorts, YouTube shorts, of some howling, and kind of giving people a little bit of I guess, a recap. You had a lot of weird stuff going on when you was young, and you heard a lot of things, and you had people telling you things when you was growing up. Isn't that right?
Oh yeah, it was maybe I'd like to say that maybe most families have weird stories to share. Hopefully, that makes us all feel a little more normal. But my family had some crazy stuff going on when back in the late 70s, early 80s. All the uncles and aunts growing up come from a big family, and most of them grew up, there in grandma's house, as we always called it. But yeah, there was some crazy stuff that happened to all of us growing up. We all had our fair share of weird happenings, and sometimes they just kind of stick with you a little bit.
What are some of those things that you guys you heard or I always ask people on this podcast that what's something that your grandparents told you not to do or give you a little advice. What were some things that especially where you're at? You're at and near the Appalachian Mountains. I'm sure that there's all types of crazy stuff they told you not to do.
Well, for one, maybe it's a common thing. Don't whistle in the woods, especially at night. Um, it's just looking for trouble, really. Grandparents told us always if we go out. Of course, we were always out then. There wasn't any internet or anything like that. So outside was our internet. But don't whistle in the woods. I've heard don't eat. Don't make a plate and eat outside at dark. Just kind of things you can reflect back on like that. Of course, my childhood was a long time ago. So for your listeners, if you want to remember a story better, you might want to write it down, because I've had to write a lot of mine down just to kind of stick with you sometimes. But I remember starting into a story. I remember a family story that was told to me. Um, if you go back and listen to the other tales from the trail, I think part two, the uncle that saw Bigfoot in the woods when he was hunting. This was the same uncle, but he was a kid. I remember the family story went. They heard him screaming in his room in the middle of the night. It was summertime. They didn't have any air conditioner. The windows open. Um, my grandmother gets up and runs to his room to see what's wrong. They hear the kid screaming. I think he was maybe about 6 or 7. I think, yeah, about 6 or 7 years old, and they hear him screaming in the middle of the night. And she runs into his room and opens the door. I remember she told me that she could see her breath in that room, and she felt something was in there with him. She never did say what it was, but she said I could see my breath like a cold winter night in that room in the
Mm.
middle of summer. So that's a pretty good indication that something was in there visiting.
Yeah, man, that's they always say that's like a spirit. It's kind of a movie thing. It's kind of a movie thing where they're like, oh, it's so cold and you can see your breath. But to actually kind of experience that is kind of crazy.
Yeah, especially in the middle of summer.
Be 90 degrees out.
Sometimes I wish my bedroom would be that cold. My wife would that on me though, but it'd be good sleep.
Shoot, he probably was sleeping good too. He's like, oh, woke up just kind of, oh, what's happened? Oh, it's real nice. Feels good in here.
Like a meat locker.
Yeah, just in there froze. Got 3 blankets on in there. It's haunted though.
All them blankets pulled up to your nose. Yeah, I thought that was always she'd told pretty much everybody that story. That was one of those stories where you could ask her, "Hey, Grandma, tell about the time the room was cold," and here it comes, for family events or what have you with that. It was always kind of crazy, when you. It makes for a good story, but when you really think about it, it's kind of messed up.
Hmm.
It's not something that's supposed to be natural. But you see that, like you said, you see that on the movies a lot nowadays, in the presence of, I guess, maybe a negative spirit or something. The actors walk in and they can see their breath, or it's real cold in the room. So maybe Hollywood's finally listening to the spooky tales.
And just kind of you kind of gave me some type of thought here. You know, speaking of that kind of, I don't. It's I would say like I don't know, a demon or something. I know that they do that a lot, but out your way, do they ever talk about demons or anything out there, or evil spirits or anything of that nature? Is that something that's talked about, or is it kind of? Because I know that people in that you see on TikTok or whatever, people talking about these spirits that are kind of like, I wouldn't say possessed, but they're kind of always around you. Have you heard anything like that out that way?
Not so much people calling them a demon. I mean, I guess people in different parts of the country have different words or different titles for these spirits, but they would just say like a evil spirit before they would, say a demon. I mean, it's the same thing, I guess, but yeah, they would always be chalked up to an evil spirit or negative energy when they would talk about it. But same thing to me. I mean, bad's bad and good's good, I guess.
Hmm.
But yeah,
When I started this, or when I reached out to you to do an episode, throughout the entirety of the podcast, you've always had some pretty interesting insight and comments made that I always found really interesting. Um, is there anything that throughout the entire of the podcast that you know you think about, or you had anything to that you wanted to talk about tonight?
Well, I want to start out by saying, Miss Rebecca here recently on your podcast, she brought the fire. She brought the heat. That was that was pretty crazy. And I was listening at work. I wear a hard hat at work because the type of work it is. But I remember when she disconnected that time, and you're just sitting there in silence, waiting for something to happen. I was about ready to jump out of my skin if something would have hollered or whatever.
Man, I was so shook. I
Yeah,
had a minute to kind of gather myself because she was getting into some. I mean, I believe it too. 100%.
yeah.
Like anyone that heard that part of the episode, I believe it. But I was pretty spooked out.
Well, see, and that was worse for me because I was looking to you to talk me down to help me through this difficult time, but it was crickets.
I couldn't even believe it. I was like, man, and I
Yeah,
sat there for like 10 seconds, like,
what do I
man,
do? But she brought the fire. So if she listened to this, man, kudos. You know, you did good. I'd a couple of years ago, I guess it was, I had heard of that video footage she was speaking about, an old, I guess I won't name names, but a guy that likes to make money with the BFRO. I heard he had the footage, the final footage, and he was sitting on it and not going to release anything for whatever reason. But you know how the rumor mill goes.
hmm
Could be true, could be made up. I guess we'll probably never know. I'd like to
yeah,
see the footage though.
man, that's something too. I was like, God, I wish I could see that. I mean, that'd be wicked. I
Yeah,
mean, just you're trying to see what's going on. But uh, one thing about that too is I had someone reach out to me, and I'll a little like inside baseball, I guess. But I had someone reach out to me about. I apologize. We got something going on in the background here. Um, but someone reached out to me and was like, "Yeah, man, I had my brother worked at the Buffalo part of that, and they had seen multiple tracks, like big tracks, and I guess they took pictures of it." And I asked him because if you guys on Patreon, yeah, I showed a bit of a clip of that. I think it's on YouTube too. I think I put it on there, but of like them taking pictures like after the fact, and there was a Bigfoot standing kind of at the edge of the line. Did you see that?
I saw something like he was just outside of the where you could see good.
Yeah, man, it was something else though. But no, I appreciate Rebecca coming on, and like I said, we'll be doing a part two. But speaking of Bigfoot, I know you have had some interesting things. I mean, do you? I guess could you share some of those stories that you have of Bigfoot?
Yeah, sure. Um, I have a most recent one that you've not heard yet.
Hmm.
So, so this happened. This was a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving last year. So we have here on the property we have a place designated in the backyard as a burn pile, just like some rocks that make a perimeter. You have burn boxes and things like that. No plastics, mind you, but just burn papers and junk mail and things like that. So it was a cold night that night, and I went out, took some boxes out to burn, and it was, of course, it was dark. It was in November, so it gets dark around 4:30 or 5 here that time of year, and I pile the boxes up and light them on fire, and I'm standing there, and it's kind of cold, so I'm really appreciating the warmth of that fire. You know, it feels good. So I'm kind of just basking. I'm standing there with my eyes closed, just soaking up this heat. It feels good. And to my right, in the back part of my property, there's a creek. Um, Across this creek, I hear just a single movement in the brush over there. It's dried leaves, so it sounds louder than it should, I guess. I just hear a single movement over there, and it's enough to make me open my eyes and look. Just kind of glance over. I figured maybe it was, I don't know, just a small animal, possum or raccoon or something out hunting food. And I didn't see anything. Of course, I couldn't really see over there good. So I went back to my fire, just enjoying the warmth of the fire. And I closed my eyes again. And all of a sudden, this sounds crazy, I know, but all of a sudden, from the direction that sound came, something ran towards me quickly. And it was so apparent that something was about to tackle me or get me or whatever. It was so obvious to me that I jerked back and I clenched a fist, getting ready to punch or try to defend myself from whatever was happening, whatever was coming toward me. I mean, I heard the footsteps, clomp, 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 coming toward me fast. Didn't have time to think of what it could be. I just heard what I heard. I reeled back with my fist clenched, getting ready to hit this thing, and I almost hollered, out of surprise. How you react. And I opened my eyes, and there's nothing there. There's nothing. After hearing what I know something stopped like 3 feet in front of me, but nothing was there.
Oh,
No more sounds, no more anything. Just nothing there. And that doesn't compute. I mean, you're outside, footsteps on the ground, clumping, something running toward you, kind of like a horse. But it doesn't make sense when you look where the sound is coming from and there's nothing there.
man.
So I don't know what that was.
I'm wondering, man, if I've heard, that's just something that's so intriguing to me. When it comes to them just like disappearing, you know,
Yeah.
it just it just doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying?
It to me it felt as real a presence running toward me as like say your buddy closes his eyes and you run toward him. You had that feeling that something is running toward you, and you can feel the wind when it stops. I felt the wind when it stopped, but I don't know. I don't know what it was.
Man, because
I
I
just
also wonder too if it's one of those. I don't know. What are they? Like those forest spirits out there. I know that they have them. I know they say sometimes trees can do those things. Do you think maybe it might have been one of them, or you think it might have been Bigfoot? There's somebody in the chat asked if you think it was Bigfoot or Dogman.
for me personally, I have not saw a dog man here. I've heard stories of them being around this area, but I personally myself have not saw that. The only thing close that I've found evidence of anything like that, I tracked a canine set of prints around Watauga Lake, and they were almost 8 inches around.
Man,
That was 2021, I believe it was. I was out fishing, and I noticed those footprints. So either somebody had there's only two prints in the trackway. So I'm not sure. I can't say that it was that, but I've never saw a dog print. For you trackers out there, you know the difference between your cats and your dogs and your bear double steps and all that stuff. That's the closest experience that I've had with that guy.
I don't think I'd ever want to run into him either.
Probably not. I don't know. I just think, honestly, I mean, not to sound like a kook, but I think we don't know anything really. We don't know our planet. We don't know our atmosphere. We don't know above and below. I don't think we
Mm.
know a whole lot that really goes on here.
Speaking of space and all that stuff, have you guys had any drones out that way?
Um, I've not saw any personally. Excuse me, I've not saw anything. Um, my dad lives about 2 miles down the road, and he said his neighbor saw one, but I don't know. Like I said, I've personally not saw anything locally anyway. But
It's oh no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, I've heard. I'm sure we've all heard the stories and saw the pictures. The thing now is it's so hard to tell when you see a video or you hear a story what's real and what's made up, what's AI. It's kind of hard to distinguish.
Yeah. You think it's aliens or you think it's us?
I think we're the aliens.
Mm, we're talking now. There we go.
I think maybe we're the aliens because you look around the planet and we're the ones that don't really fit in. So now we're all surprised when Daddy comes back home.
Mm,
Who knows?
man, yeah. See, that is see, I've kind of been on that wavelength, with the drones and all that stuff, and people saying they're coming out from the oceans and they're flying for like 24 hours, 48 hours, some crazy amount of hours. And to me, it's like I don't think we have nothing in our technology that is able to run that long and be stationary like that. And for it to come out of the ocean, is very interesting to me. Um, and I have this running theory, and I started that thought from Russell Sun Eagle over at Okie Podcast and Spirit Talkers. He had mentioned that I think it might be us. I'm like, man, that's interesting. And I was watching this show. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called War of the Worlds. It's on MGM Plus. Um, but it's a similar premise where like we have basically evolved to the point where we can't reproduce and we have to go back. It's that type of premise of a show. And when I see these drones, I'm like, man, I don't feel like it's not that far off. You know?
Yeah, that could be. I'd say we probably won't find out for sure till it's too late.
Mm. Yeah, I know we'll be all looking up and there's this mothership. Like you see in them TV shows, people looking up and it's this big monstrous ship, and you're like, oh man, it's over.
Yeah, it's go time.
But kind of getting back to Bigfoot and kind of that experience. Um, you had kind of a weird encounter where they disappear. Um, and I've shared your story so many times, just in passing with people, and because it's very intriguing to me with the camouflage thing. I was always told growing up, if you don't want to be seen, you won't be seen. Um, and one thing about the story, and I'm gonna have you, you don't have to tell the full thing, but could you briefly kind of, I guess, remind people this is the very first episode with you. This is like almost over 2 years ago. Um, can you, or I guess almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, but um, could you remind people of that story? Of that one that disappeared.
Yeah, I still, man, as time goes, I start to doubt it more. I don't know if that's just my consciousness telling me that it didn't happen, or it just doesn't make sense for something like that to happen. But anyways, for the new listeners, I was going to work one morning. It was dark, probably just a little bit before 5 a.m. And I was going down the highway, and I go around this right hand turn, and my headlights swept across a figure standing beside the road, the opposite side of the road that I was driving on. So it's on my left. My headlights swept across it, and it was just a big hairy creature. Um, had long, shaggy. It was grayish in color, kind of like a duct tape gray, or maybe charcoal, like a charcoal gray, like a light. And the hair hung over its face, kind of looked matted almost, or it kind of made me think that the face was disfigured for some reason because you couldn't make out the features real good on its face. But I was in shock the second that my headlights hit that, and it was standing beside of a fence beside the road, and it just kicked its right leg over the fence and then hauled its left leg over following it. Took about 2 steps, and it it blinked. It blinked out. It wasn't there anymore. And all this took place just a couple of seconds, 3 or 4 seconds, and it just like a light switch. It was gone, and there's nothing there but an open field, a pasture for cattle. The same creek that flows in my backyard is back behind this where this happened. So it's probably maybe 100 yards away. But there's no trees or no ditches or anything to duck in or crawl around, or it just it just wasn't there anymore. Is the only thing I know to say about it. It just stopped being there.
Man. Yeah, I get goosebumps when you tell that story, man, because it makes me think like, I've been on, and I've said this a billion times, but I'll say it again. I don't. It's hard to explain. I think that they know medicine, man, and you may be able to explain it better than me. Because I know, um, you know, Cherokees kind of, we kind of believe that they're almost like another tribe of people, like another set of, uh, different. And when I say that now, people always ask me, "Well, what do you mean by people?" And I'm like, "It's not really what I'm saying. I'm saying it's like they have like their social class is like a clan, or their social interactions are like a clan." And is that, I guess, is that kind of similar to what you've heard, or I guess, what do you kind of believe that they are?
Yeah, the same thing here. The one of the Cherokee words, Uniwadowahi, the mystic tribe, the hidden tribe. Supposedly, when our ancestors came in contact with these things, um, it was just as a matter of fact thing in the woods as a bear or a deer or a squirrel. It was something that was real and it's out there. And we were always taught to, if you saw one or encountered one, to just turn around and go back the way you came, because they don't like us, because we have how we have become in our ways, in our treatment of the planet. Not to get all hippie on anybody
Hmm.
or anything, but
Hmm.
it's just, um, I've heard stories of the creatures facial expressions filled with hate and spite. And, that would come from, hey, you're messing the planet up. I guess. I mean, I don't know personally, but that's what I was always told. That if you see one, to turn around and walk away.
Yeah, it's interesting, to hear different tribes kind of say the same things. I was always taught kind of leave things, as it was when you're in somewhere that's, not yours, sort of say, but you had some notes. I'm just kind of curious on what kind of notes you had. I'm sure you got some heat over there.
Well, I had to make some notes so I wouldn't forget anything. And earlier, when you first contacted me, I was like, okay, yeah, I'll come on and tell some stories. And all this whole time since the second part, I'm like, yeah, I've got more stories to tell. And then right before it's time, I'm like, what do I say? I'm so nervous. So it hit me again. But I've had a chance to make a couple of notes here. Um, there was some clanging outside of my house one time recently. I think I sent you an audio
Hmm.
of that. So this happened, it was just a month or so ago, and I really recorded an audio, like, I don't know what confession or what the word is, but just a documentation. I wanted to document that so I would remember what happened. It happens when you get older, folks. Sorry, you're gonna be there one day. But anyway, I came outside one morning for work, and there was a loud clanging outside in my yard. And I know the when I stepped out on the front porch, and the motion sensor light that we have came on, and the clanging immediately stopped. I mean, and this was loud clanging. It sounded like if you heard the flagpole clang, like the metal D hook or whatever to secure the rope for the flag. When it clangs against the flagpole, it makes the clang sound. And that's what I thought of when I first heard it, but it was real loud. And I don't have a flagpole. I don't have anything that clangs in my yard. So this super loud clanging was happening until my front porch light came on, and then it stopped. And this whole time, my dog's just raising Cain. He's just barking his head off. And I just thought to myself, hey, something's out here again. But
I'm even trying to think of what that could be. I know people have heard a clanging noise when it refers to like a UFO, maybe. I mean, did you see any lights out there, or was it just pitch? I know it's probably
mm,
pitch black out there.
it's what I call country dark.
Mm,
So we don't have any streetlights here. So when you think of the blackest black that you can think of, subtract a bunch more black from that, and that's country dark.
mm.
But yeah, didn't see anything, no smells, no nothing, just 6 or 7 clanks, and it stopped when I opened the door, and thankfully it didn't do anything else.
Yeah.
So I was cool with that. No,
And
one
was
time,
so it was like a metallic clang, like
yes,
and it
yeah,
did it echo at all? Did like like when something clangs and it kind of the sound kind of carries is
just a
uh
little, just a
okay.
little bit, but not enough to make me think that it came from far away. This most definitely came from very close.
Mm,
It wasn't something in the distance clanking, and projecting an echo or something. It was within 50 feet of where I was at.
if anybody in the chat, I'm kind of curious on if you got those of you guys that are listening, Put in the chat if you've heard anything like that before. I'm kind of curious on if anybody else has heard something like that. Um, I've always heard it might have been UFOs, but also too, like I heard a story that I guess this gets into some deep waters over here, but that it's related to Bigfoot and like them coming off the UFO craft. Now, like I said, that sounds crazy, but there's been multiple reports of hearing that sound, referring to the aliens dropping the Bigfoots off or the dog man, whatever how that that theory is. But no, that's very interesting. I know you've sent me a few different clips with different sounds. I mean, the one where your dog was basically you're sitting there recording and it's just this loud roar. Out where you're at, I'm sure you probably hear all types of stuff out there.
Yeah, growing up in the mountains and areas like this, I mean, it's like I guess anybody else. If you grow up in the city, you recognize city noises. I mean, you grow up in the country and you recognize all your noises as well. Get to coyote packs running through, and got your deers bleating out and gurgling and doing what they do. And I tell you, straight up, a fox will scare you to death if you don't know what it is. you would you would swear that something crazy and alien is going to get you. It's coming for you, but it's only a fox. You can look those up. Those are pretty. I would say that's more the weirder type sounds comes from a fox. But you got bobcats and you got bears. And the scariest thing of all to encounter at night is people.
Mm. Mm.
No joke. But yeah,
Yep.
you get used to all the sounds, and something happens, something comes across abnormally like that, and it's pretty quick. You make note of it pretty quick. Something that's outside of the normal.
And I can't remember if I've asked you this before, but I had somebody when I was in the Ozark Mountains at Eureka Springs, staying out there with my wife. Uh, have you heard of any I don't hate to say this about people, but hills have eyes. People, have you heard anything like that out your way? I know that's especially in the Appalachian Mountains. People always kind of talk about that. Have you heard
Well,
anything like that?
like feral people.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Mm, I've come across some encampments locally, but as far as face-to-face encounters with any kind of feral people, personally, I have not. I've heard plenty of stories. Right over the mountain here, Maggie Valley, which is just right outside of Cherokee, North Carolina. There's talks of um, a lot of talk of feral people outside of the mountains of Maggie Valley, and that for locals that butts up right against the Koala boundary, which is the eastern boundary Cherokee Reservation. But personally, I've not encountered face to face. Like I said, I've found camps, I've found trash, I've found tracks. But as far as wild people, I think those are all at Walmart.
Dang, you hit past 10 o'clock at Walmart, man.
Yes, sir.
Man. I used to laugh back in my college days. Everybody knows I'm originally from Tahlequah, and I used to laugh. We'd kind of just be people watching, a little bit, and in high school too. We'd go out there at the Walmart, man. When Walmarts are open 24/7 in Tahlequah, people get off the river and it's dark. Boy, they be lit up, man. Just be looking crazy.
Looks like they just got drug out of the river.
Dang, yeah, literally be all just scuzzed up, just looking horrific, man. God, but
Getting all mad because you can't buy a beer after 3 a.m.
oh yeah. You're like, hey, it's only 2:01, and you look, it's like, and they're like, man, it's like 4:30. Like, dang, where you been? Out your mind.
Time flies when you're having fun, I guess.
I guess. Yeah, if you're a crackhead in the chat, man, I'm sorry. I ain't mean to disrespect you like that. No.
Uh, oh, Lordy.
Or if you're listening to this on the back end, hey, you can lie to us. You ain't gotta say you're a crackhead. But it is what it is. But anyways, but um, so it's just I've always heard different weird things like that. And one of the bus ladies just and that really kind of spooked me out too when she was telling us this. We were taking a trolley towards downtown. We were staying in a cabin, and we meet up. You meet up at this little central location where the trolley starts, kind of outside of town, just a little bit in Eureka Springs. And I asked her, I was just kind of asking, trying to get some spooky stories, just trying to see what's going on in the town. And she goes, "Yeah, I haven't." I think it's real spooky out here at night. And she's like, "Yeah, yeah, just don't take the purple trolley at night." And I looked at my wife, and she's like, "Oh, well," because she knew I was going to ask. I said, "Why? Is there feral people out here?" She goes, "Yeah, there's people out here that'll get you." And she said it so matter of factly, like like it's something she tells all tourists and whatnot. And I just was like, "Ugh." But but Eureka Springs, I don't know if I guess have you ever been out that way, or have you been out there? Because man, it's a weird town, man. It's really weird. It does give me Appalachian Mountain vibes because there's so much like what they say, witchcraft,
Oh,
New
yeah.
Age witchcraft in that town. Like every little shop that's in the little nook and crannies be like a rock shop or a aura shop or and I was talking to one of the ladies at the hotel, and she was telling me. I said, "Yeah," I bet it's real creepy in here, isn't it, at night?" And she's like, "Yeah, I don't really like working at night, but especially like in off seasons, like when it's not quite popular, it's not summertime, everybody's out of school and all that stuff." But
Oh, yeah.
she was saying one night I don't know if I've ever told the story, but she was saying, and you reminded me when we started talking about this. Um, but she was telling me, she's like, "Yeah, at night sometimes on this balcony, we'll come out here and smoke or just talk, or it's getting real late, about to close down. It's real, nobody's hardly in here." And she says you'll see shadows running from like alleyway to alleyway, like shadows, not people, shadows. And she was telling me that they do seances in different, and kind of underground, because there's a tunnel underground, I think, in that town. But she would say basically there's people doing these seances, and these spirits are trying to get to them, trying to find a way to get to that seance. I was like, "How do you?" I asked her, "How do you know that?" She's like, "I've been here too long." I was like, "Ah,
Uh, Ooh. Yeah, if you're in bed by about 9 o'clock, it should be pretty good.
yeah, yeah, you should be." But that's sometimes the night just creeps up on you. You gotta keep going. The
Yeah.
night. I always tell my wife, I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, the night is young." It's like 9:30, or
Uh,
she'll be
Six.
like, "The night's young." No, but dang, there'll be sometimes we're like, man, we both of us look at each other, and I got two little kids, and so it's like we look at each other and said that it's 9:30, night's young, and we're like, yeah, night is young, and about 10 o'clock we like, it's time to pack it up.
Uh, yeah, me and my wife say that sometimes, but it's like 7.
Yeah, is he? Dang, it's still light outside, man. What are you waiting on, Santa Claus? I know Santa
Um,
Claus just came. Trying to get in bed for them presents.
yeah, I'm not here. Time waits for no man.
No, not at all. But I guess getting back to the spooky stuff, that's kind of what happens when me and Derek start talking. We start talking about things, just being silly, I guess. But one thing that I'm kind of interested to know. Have you heard any little people stories out that way, or you have any?
um, well, if you remember, I had an incident with my car last winter. I think
Mm,
it was,
I
and
do remember that.
yeah, I was wondering about that, so I could go ahead and tell everybody. Yeah, I'm a routine guy, so every day I wake up and I do the exact same thing every day. get up, get ready, go to work. If it's cold, I go start my car. Get that heat going, get the windshield defrosted and the back window cleared off, and I don't. Nobody wants to ride in a cold car. Ice scrapers are for people that the defrosters don't work. But this particular morning, I stepped outside to start my car. I'm not sure what month this was. Colder month, December, January, something like that. But I stepped outside to start my car. Same as I always do. Fire it up, windshield full blast, defrost on the rear window, come back in, and I get ready for work, get on my stuff. Probably 10, 15 minutes, I guess, has passed since I started my car. So it should be nice and toasty, while the wind is cleared, the ice gone, and all that good stuff. So I come out, lock my door behind me, keep my spare key on me just to lock the door for when I start my car, because, the house key's on the car key too. But I've got one on my pack. Anyway, lock the door behind me, walk to the car, start to get in, door's locked. Car door's locked. Car's running. Back door locked. Passenger front and back door locked. What? You gotta have the key fob to lock the door,
Mm-hmm.
and the key's inside the car. So there's not. This never happened before. First time ever, and I've had that car forever. That's my baby. It's 7, 8 years, never happened. And I could be making this up. I could be in my head, but I swear I could have heard just a little giggle from the woods. The woods right beside my house. I thought I heard just like a little snicker. And I had to go beat on my bedroom window to wake my poor wife up at 4:50 a.m. Let me in the house and get a spare key to unlock my car. And the video I sent you, I know, I was looking on my security cameras for the car door opening to see if I caught anything on camera, but I never did. Never saw the car door open or anything. So for some crazy reason, it locked itself, and a tree laughed at me. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's one thing about those cars with the key fob. They don't lock unless you manually lock it. Like unless you like open the door, lock it on purpose.
Yeah,
They don't. When the key's inside, it doesn't lock. It won't lock. So that's
yeah,
that's interesting.
yeah. The car will lock itself when you put it in drive,
Mm-hmm.
but it's set in the driveway.
And did you? I can't remember. Did you have a handprint or something on that too?
I did. I thought I had a little bit of a handprint on the window. I couldn't really make it out too good to say definitely.
Because I remember it was like it looked like four little fingers. You know what I'm saying? Like it looked like
Yeah.
but there was no palm basically.
Yep. Yep. 4 fingertips.
Yeah, yeah. It was
Four.
like you could see like the first like like when you bend your finger, the top part bends, but obviously it's connected to your hand.
Yep.
I remember you sending me that picture, and it was like four little like how our hand like like this basically this. If you're seeing it, it's like this part right here,
Yep.
this part. Yeah, that's weird, man.
That's what I saw.
Yeah, because and dang, it could have been just the fingers. They was pressing up against the locking it on you.
Yep.
And they do those things.
Well, that would sound like an LP prank to me.
Mm-hmm.
From what I've heard, that sounds like a classic LP prank. Something usually, when I say LP prank, for those of you who are unknown about this, imagine your college buddy or your high school buddy messing with you and playing a prank on you. A lot of times that's what the LPs will do, just kind of mess with you. It's not harmful or anything. I guess it kind of would be harmful if I didn't have a spare key.
Mm-hmm.
But they seem to like to mess with you. It's kind of a light-hearted kind of way. I don't know.
I'll tell you something that just happened like last night. I think it was last night or night before. Uh, so we're in the middle of potty training my oldest, and sometimes it's rough. Everybody out there can agree, but we were so I had just gotten up, or my wife had gotten up. I can't really remember. It's kind of a blur, but we have this picture frame that's next to the I'm trying to think of what that is. It's like a bookshelf type thing. It's real tall. It like goes all the way up to the ceiling. It's like it's almost as tall as the ceiling. And then I put my doctored uh geez, I'm losing my doctored cedar on there, and I have my grandpa's uh kind of this pillow blanket that's made out of his shirt, one of his shirts, and I don't see I think my feathers in there too. I can't remember, but it might be, but I put it up there at the very top so nobody can mess with it. I used to have friends and try to mess with that stuff. And I'm like, buddy, I was like, you're in for it, man. But so, I'm laying there and I'm you ever just kind of be asleep, but you're not really asleep. Like you're almost like you're like in a haze kind of. And, I'm laying there and all of a sudden I hear this and I kind of turn over and I hear this bang and it was like a boom, and I was like, "What?" And I kind of like, kind of shook me back into kind of I was kind of more awake, but I look over and I'm kind of like looking at my wife. I thought she fell down. Like I ain't trying to tell on her, but dang, one night she's getting up with one of the kids and dang near about killed herself, tripping over her own clothes because she don't pick them up. But no, but but I thought she fell down again, so I kind of look and I don't see anybody standing up or I don't see nothing, but I kinda look and she kinda looked and, like, she kinda got up for a second, and I could tell she's looking at something. Um, but something knocked off the picture, off the wall. Basically, just like they just kinda plucked it off it's hanging on a little nail, and, like, they just pushed someone just kinda flipped it off the wall, and it hit, and it was so stinking loud. It was like a gunshot, it sounded like, real close 'cause we have a hard wooden floor. That it hit, and it hit right on the corner where it was the loudest. But I'll be wondering if that it was somebody. I always get kind of weirded out, especially when I have this podcast. I talk to a lot of people about stuff, spooky stuff, especially if I may get to them like at 9:30 at night, 10 o'clock. But those, I was talking to. I ain't trying to blame nobody, but I'm just saying, I'm just like, man, maybe it's just talking about the spooky stuff at night, maybe, but that scared me. I was like, man, God, like that's real scary. But I've been having a lot of weird stuff like that. Maybe I'll talk about it, but but they do those things. They kind of mess with you a little bit.
Kind of like just setting yourself up for a spook.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Once you get all spooked out, it doesn't take much more to push you over the edge.
Mm-hmm. Man, let's get back to your notes, man. What other notes you got? I'm kind of curious. I know you got some stuff on there that I know you're kind of
Well, one
you'll let
day,
us know.
one day, not today. One day I'm gonna run out of stories. How about I got one skilly waysa. You know about those skillies?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, skilly waysa. We have a skilly waysa here. Cherokee ghost cat. My wife knows this story all too well because she's also part of it. So, this skilly waysa, this ghost cat, predates my marriage. So I was living alone, single, in my own house, and I started when I would lay down to sleep at night, I would feel something small kind of jump in the bed and take a few steps, a few small steps, and lay down. So for people that have cats, it's just like your cat came to bed with you. Just walks up a little bit and sleeps by your feet or by your legs, cuddled up with you. And so this was my other house was a couple hours away from where I live now. So this ghillie has followed me 3 houses, 4 houses.
Mm.
It's always done the same thing. Um, and I finally told my wife about it. Actually, it was then my girlfriend about it. Of course, I waited a little while after we met to tell her this. I didn't want her to think I was too crazy. You know, that's not something you want to say on a first date. Hey, by the way, I've got a ghost cat.
Mm-hmm.
But as the true soldier that she always is, she took it with a grain of sand and accepted it. And finally, she came to experience the same thing that I described. She lay down in bed, completely random. It's not set on any certain time or day or month or anything like that. It just feels like a cat jumps up with you and takes a few steps, does a turn, plops down. And I've never saw anything with this phenomenon. To me, it feels like a cat. And calling it a cat is a lot better than thinking about what all else it could be.
Mm-hmm.
But she said to me a few times, "Hey, the ghost cat is here." Like, yeah, just relax. But it never does anything. Just jumps up in bed with you and lays down. And we've all known it, all of our marriage. It's been with us as it was with me before we were married. It's just Wesaskili, the ghost cat. So I think for all you people that have cats, cats are native too because they all run on Indian time. They do what they want when they want. But yeah, that's Ghost Cat.
Mm.
So our family is well known. We understand what he is, and no harm, no foul as far as he goes. He does what he wants, just like every other cat. I don't know if it was a previous cat that I owned that came back and wanted to cuddle or what, but this it is what it is. You know, eso sí que es. It's scary.
Someone's in the chat's asking, did I guess you had multiple cats in the past before this, or has this always been there, like from the
Um,
time you were a little guy?
no, this came to me when I was, I guess, mid 20s. I guess mid to early 20s, maybe 23, 24. It started happening. I had one outside cat, which wasn't mine. He just came to me as a stray. Um, he just hung out for a few days and left, but there was no ever any definite pet as a cat. I didn't really have a favorite cat or you know, I didn't have a Mr. Whiskers or anything like that. It's just completely random.
You
My
have any
partner.
relatives that had cats that they loved, like
Uh,
grandmother or somebody?
no, not really. My family's always been kind of dog people.
Mm.
But I apologize to chat if I'm not acknowledging or answering questions. It's my first time doing this in this format, so I'm not sure what to look at here.
No, it's all right. I can read it for you. I guess while
Mhm.
we're talking about chat, let's go all the way up to the beginning here. Audacious Amber, how's it going? Pyromedic, how's it going? Miss Rebecca's in the chat. How's it going, Miss Rebecca? I'll be hitting you up for a part two here in the next probably week or so.
Uh-oh.
Um, OKP, um, he asked a question to you a little bit ago. Have you seen the movie Nope?
Nope.
Nope.
Not that I know of. You'd have to ask my wife what movies I saw.
It was a Jordan Peele movie. It was a one. It was a kind of alien movie. It was like about a couple ranchers or something, I haven't seen it in years.
Not that I know of. Like I said, you'd have to ask my wife. I could watch a movie, and a week later, I'll show her previews to a good-looking movie that we should watch, and she's always like, "We saw that already." I don't know if she makes it up or not, but I believe her. Just go with it.
Miss Rebecca asked you, when it comes to that metal clanging, is it Bigfoot hitting rocks together?
It doesn't sound like a rock. It straight up, it sounds like you got a metal flagpole and you got one of those D clamps that secure the rope for the flag to run up. Clang, clang, clang. Just straight up like that. Hollow aluminum D clamp slapping up against it. Loud.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you one
Go
other.
ahead.
Oh, okay, sorry. One other quick story. I came outside one time, just similar to that. Another noise. And something slammed my neighbor's trash can lid down hard the second I stepped outside and ran away. So I opened the door. It's a very distinct sound. You got the big garbage can, the big plastic. It's just pow. You hear it running away. I don't know if that was, but I got to thinking. It's like, what slams a lid? Because I had raccoon problems for a minute with my trash can until I found a way out to keep them out of my trash can with a cable and a clamp. So I know it wasn't mine, but whatever it was slammed my neighbor's trash can lid down and ran away back behind their house.
Man, speaking of trash can lids, paramedic said David Wilbanks, the BFRO investigator who investigated the casino incident, recorded what sounded like a metal bucket being clanged around in the mountains. It
could have
yeah,
been.
go ahead. Yeah, it could have. It's something. Yeah, I mean something making a metal clanging out in the middle of nowhere. When I highly doubt that there's metal laying around in the woods unless somebody littered.
Yeah.
Pyromedic said on Scott Carpenter's, I guess uke recording of two beings arguing. They said that there was a metallic sound in the background. That is the first that I heard recorded. That's interesting. I think I may have heard that. Let's see here. OKP says LP took a bunch of deli meat out of my locked car once. I wanted my chicken strips too.
Yeah.
Dang, just be starved down out there. You just
throw your nugget. Didn't need no dipping sauce, did he?
No, just straight meat, man. That's what they want.
Ain't no ranch needed.
Mayhem Beating. Hey, shout out Mayhem Beating. Just moved out to Tahlequah, out in the middle of nowhere, sounds like. But I know she got some stuff going on out there, or they got some stuff going on. Her husband. But Mayhem Beating says we had a cat die, and we could feel a cat jump in bed at night, and hear soft meows occasionally after a few months. After that, for a few months, and then it stopped.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've never heard any meows.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially animals. That's why I was kind of wondering if you had like a grandma or somebody who was a cousin or or somebody who was close to you, because I've heard this too, not very many times, but I've heard this kind of not really natives, but just kind of with animals in general, that these animals, when they pass, they never really leave you. But also too, it also could be a relative. I know I've talked about owls in the past. I've heard different things that could be relative, or a messenger of sorts. I know, I had an aunt that used to see hummingbirds. And one time she said it was like 50 hummingbirds, and you don't ever see hummingbirds, more than a couple of them.
Oh yeah.
at a time. But yeah, they were outside just flapping their wings. She was thinking it was probably a past relative. So I wonder if it might have been somebody who maybe could have been down the line. Maybe four times great grandpa or grandma who you know is coming back to check on you. I kind of wonder that, especially if you never had a cat and it just started showing up. When you was in your 20s.
Yeah, it could be anything really. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
At the point in time in my life, all I did was work and things that I weren't supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's usually when they start showing up, though. I noticed
Yeah.
that too for me as well. When I was, especially in my 20s, man. I kind of, it's almost like I kind of was like not really focused on things. And I let kind of some things pass. And as I'm getting older, I'm not like I said, I'm 30, turned 30
But
this year.
I started to say back in your 20s, dude, it's like 5 years ago.
Yeah, that was like it was literally like a year ago. But like I remember I'm really talking about my early 20s. Like when you turn, you're 20, 21. But as I've gotten older, like throughout my 20s now, I'm 30. Um, it's just it's like a perspective. When you start having kids, you start seeing grandparents get older, and grandparents passing away, or a relative that passes away, or it's just it puts it all in perspective. So I was wondering if they're always kind of watching, in some form or fashion.
Well, they're in our culture, they're said to,
Hmm.
they pass to the West and they become part of our ancestral team, really, to watch and guide and all that good stuff. So who knows?
Yeah.
They
And
want
or some of those Eastern, I guess you say, cultures out, kind of Asian cultures. They kind of believe in reincarnation. Not really Asian, but those Eastern uh, countries in the world are Eastern from us, I guess. Or if the world's flat, it's just right over. I don't know, but y'all can decipher that for yourself. But they always talk about reincarnation, and you've had different people come through and be like, yeah, I remember when I died. It's like, what? Or like they'll have a birthmark where like one kid in like back in the 80s. I don't know if anybody in the chat remembers this or can correct me if I'm wrong. I think 80s or 90s, but he basically was telling people that he had died by like a axe or something, and he was just like, yeah, this is where it happened. And he had like a little birthmark where he said it happened. It's a kid. Sometimes kids be telling tall tales, but I don't know. It's definitely it's interesting. Those are one of the questions I like. Sometimes I'll lay awake at night, just kind of getting that last little thought out, before I go to sleep, type of thing.
Oh yeah, it's usually when it hits you the hardest,
Hmm.
when you don't need it to.
Yeah. So you have and you got Skilly Cat. What other things you've been kind of thinking about since we last spoke? Stories you have or anything like that.
Well, I do have a story that a coworker told me not too long ago. Um, your coworkers, you bond with people of like mind, and sometimes you wouldn't just go tell somebody outside of your circle, I guess what it is, um, certain things of your story. So this young man comes to me and he is telling me he's having a party at his house one night. This is a younger gentleman, Hispanic gentleman, and he said we're out on the back porch, I guess, overlooking the parking lot. It's apartments that he lives in, and he said there's surrounded by forest here, and him and a friend are standing outside, and they see. I'm trying to make sure I get this right. The way he told me, they see a deer in the woods, and they see it just for a second, and it darts off into the woods. and they look to the left of them, of their porch, and they see what they think looks like a person in a ghillie suit laying down. This is the direction that the deer ran. So they see the deer and it runs off into the woods and to their left. And they see, he said, it looks like a man in a ghillie suit. He said, that's what I thought it was. Just a dude laying there in a ghillie suit, like full camouflage, bushcraft. And then they go downstairs. The stairs twist around, like there's one section that you have to go down, and then you do 2 left turns and go down a second set of steps to get down to the bottom level of this apartment complex. Because they want to go see what this dude is doing there laying in the woods. And he said they get to where he was laying, and there is nothing there but a log. Just a big log. He said, and there's no way that I could mistake a person for a tree. And then his friend over to the right of him says they see the deer run off again into the woods. I know that don't make a lot of sense, but that's the way he told me. I just thought it was kind of weird, and he was kind of alarmed when he told me about it. He said it was plain as day. There was a person laying there. Oh, what was that?
Sorry, that was my dog barking. He's every little noise it makes around here, he starts barking. Dang, I know that scared you. It kind of got me a little bit too.
Dog man.
My bad.
Rest in peace to the headphone users.
I know, man. That was he's right. He's literally laying right here, and he's real scaredy cat. He's a half. He's a well. I don't know if he's half. I don't really know what he's half with, but he's a Great Pyrenees mix, and but any type of bump, he just gets all. I'm gonna get him, and then he sees it, and he gets all scared. But yeah, for everybody listening in, I'm sorry if that got you, because it kind of. I was like, man, because I heard you getting up like he was about to go after something, but I had to snap at him. But but that's interesting. That deer. Did it just look a normal deer, or was there like a?
Yeah, nothing weird about the deer. They just said it ran over to where they saw a man laying with a ghillie suit on, and they like I said, they went down two flights, I guess, upstairs to get to the ground level, and they went over, and it was a log. It's like this person changed into a log and then to a deer, but he was spooked. I don't know. I was kind of, I don't know how to take that one. I mean, sometimes things can appear differently when you're spooked or expecting something,
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought it was interesting. He thought it was interesting, so he sought me out to tell that story too. He was like, "Oh, it's a Nagalushi." I shouldn't say that because it's dark. I'm gonna have to smoke off after this.
Man, you have to really start sending them prayers out, man. But,
Oh, I'm definitely smoking off after tonight. Right here, right after this is done.
yeah. Yeah, it's man, I've heard different weird stories like that where people see something and then something else steps out, or like it goes in. Because to me, what doesn't make any logical sense is why would something, walk into somewhere and then come out a different, and something else come out the exact same way that went in, like to the woods or whatever.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Didn't Bigfoot teach Harjo to become a tree stump?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Another story on that. Actually,
Yeah.
I was hiking once on Little Oak Mountain up in Sullivan County here in Tennessee, and I was nearing the top. Actually, I was wanting to go scope out for some fishing spots because this one Little Oak Mountain trail was supposed to parallel the lake. So I was scoping some fishing spots, and to my left, this was in late fall, so every little step you made Sounded like a bulldozer going through the forest. But anyway, no sound. To my left, I catch movement out of the corner of my eye, a big movement. And I turned and looked, and the movement was a tree branch. I think I sent you that picture,
Mm-hmm.
and it looked like a it looked like a Bigfoot sitting on a tree, but
Mm.
something was moving over there. I'm not sure why or what that was, but something that I took note of, not really enough to spook me out, really, but just something to catch your eye. You have what, a 170-degree peripheral, so if something kind of barely skirts that outside of your peripheral vision, it's usually something to check out. But they
Mm-hmm.
also say the spirits will move just outside of your peripheral vision,
Mm-hmm.
just at the corner of your eye. I have heard that,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure what that was. But I took a picture. Excuse me.
Yeah. It's definitely I mean, that's one thing too. If you guys, like I said, go listen to the first two parts. Tales from the Trail, part one and part two. He's always hiking, always out in different parts of Tennessee and different parts out in the woods near his home. And one thing that you had kind of mentioned before when we were talking, especially during that hurricane. Um, I'm kind of this is gonna get a little conspiracy. I'm kind of switching courses here because I'm kind of curious. Um, do you think that something was going on? During the relief part of that, and this is totally off topic, but I'm just kind of curious on what you kind of what you think.
Um, I personally saw. No, I can't say that. I got to be careful what I'm saying. I'm. I just need to be careful here because I don't want to say anything that's not true. People
Mhm.
people will see videos and they will hear things and they will repeat them as truths. And if what you're seeing isn't true, then you're repeating a lie.
Mhm.
Um, there was a lot of things happen during that time that didn't make sense to me. What I saw personally. First of all, Tennessee and Western North Carolina, we're not supposed to have hurricanes. That's just not a thing for us. It never has been. I was at work that Friday morning that Helene hit the area, and we have big garage doors at work, and I watched that storm go through the area. And to be honest, I wasn't really impressed with the severity of that storm. I'd seen it rain harder. I'd seen the wind blow harder. One thing to say though, it had rained steady for 3 or 4 days prior to that. So we were pretty much soaked, really good soaked before that hit. But the actual storm itself wasn't that impressive from what I saw. And one thing that was weird to me was after it passed, you could look outside and it looked like the most beautiful summer day you could imagine. No clouds in the sky. I mean, if you just looked at the sky, it looked like a perfect day for a picnic. Nothing was going on. It seemed peaceful. And then you look at that what happened below the sky. My town is Elizabeth in Tennessee. That's my home. It's always been my home. That town was hit really hard, and it's still a mess. The main bridge in town is closed. You have to go on all these back roads to get from one part of town to the other. There were a lot of trees down from my work to my house. If I would have left right before or during the peak of the storm, I wouldn't have made it home for the trees. My property personally, we didn't get flooded, but we did have a few trees down that I had to deal with, but nothing major. But there were just some weird things, some weird rumors that were going around. See, the town of Irwin, Tennessee was hit very hard. And I consider that part of my home too. That's my fishing spot, that Nolechucky River up there. I'd told the stories of before on the previous episode of fishing on the Nolechucky River. But this all like my home ground. And that town was buried under 4 feet of mud. It was hit very hard.
Mm,
People's homes floated down the river.
man, it's just I know there was a lot. Like I said, like you mentioned before just now. They say that there's a lot of weird occurrences that happened during that time, and I'm glad that you made it out safe, and I'm glad that you know I know you, and so it's like I'm glad that you made it through. I told you that then. I'll tell you that now. I'm glad that you know everything's all right.
I appreciate it. there's a
Um,
there's
yeah,
a
go ahead.
lot
I'm
of
sorry.
oh sorry. There's a lot of rumors of uh, the lack of support that came late or was insufficient when it did come. I can say that it took 5 days to get anything here locally. And like I said, I don't know if that was because of all the red tape or paperwork, that has to be filled out. But if your home floats down the river and you're sitting there looking at your wife and kids, wondering what you're going to tell them to make them feel better, 5 days is not exactly 5 days.
Hmm.
But like I said, there's a lot of rumors floating around. Um, I did see there was a delay in relief and a lack of relief. I have personally known of people being turned away that came to help and were told not to help, told to get out, and were threatened with arrest.
Mm.
So, for whatever reason that happened, I don't know. All I can say is it could have been handled better, and the people that are still handling it to this day are the locals.
Mm.
The locals came together, and they're still coming together to help each other. And Appalachia doesn't need the government. So there you go.
Well put. I appreciate that. And
Yep.
um, before we wrap this thing up, I want to thank everybody who's joining the chat. And I'll said it at the very beginning. I'll say it here. Hit the like button, and then leave a comment. Let us know, the episode and what you thought, and or if you have anything that you might want to add, do it in the comments. I appreciate everyone who does that, because it does help the channel out, and it does help the podcast out. I think I lost Derek there. Um, but like I said, I've talked to Derek for quite a while, and you know, oh, there he is. And I appreciate him. He always reaches out about everything, and I'm glad that he made it through all right. And I'm glad that he was able to join me tonight. But before we go, Derek, do you got any other stories, last minute stories, or and really I always end my interviews with what is a scare? What is, and it doesn't have to be something spooky. It could be something just every day. In your life. Has there been any stories that really scared you?
Well, once one of maybe one of the only benefits of getting a little bit older is you don't spook as easy because you've about seen everything, or you think you saw everything. But I will say, one time I believe that maybe I was kidnapped in a dream. So this may sound weird. Um, People will sometimes talk about um, like a alien, what is it, kidnapping,
Mm-hmm.
or like being abducted,
Mm-hmm.
abducted by aliens or what have you. But what if that's not a physical thing? Maybe that could be just a mental episode. Like you can, they have the power to hijack your thoughts and your minds to make you believe something. I don't know.
Hmm.
But one time, I feel like maybe that I was kidnapped in a dream.
Do you
And
remember who did it?
I couldn't see my abductors. It was more, it wasn't forceful feeling. It was, I was being escorted by them. There were two of them. I do know that because I felt their presence. And it was almost like they were a tour guide for my experience. And they were showing me things, and I could ask questions and they would answer them. And I don't know, this kind of hard to put into words really. It was it was realer than my life felt.
Hmm.
At least at the time, it felt more real to me than what we know is real. But I was in a stone temple. It was dark and kind of musky and wet. It almost reminded me, looking back at it, as the old Mortal Kombat movies where they were in like the temples, the
Mm-hmm.
dark Shaolin temples. It was kind
Mm-hmm.
of that, just big stones, and it was a really big room, open with high ceilings. It was kind of rounded, and I couldn't see who I was talking to, but the words, the conversation was happening inside my head, I guess you could say. But I was asking, I guess, my tour guides, if you want to call them that, I was asking them why we're here, and just all the questions that you would want to ask of if you encounter a superior being,
Mm-hmm.
what's the meaning of life and all that. But now this is what they told me. This is not me speaking. This is what they said. So I don't want to offend anybody, and this gets just a little religious. So I don't want to offend any religion, no matter what you believe in. That's your personal. That's your thing. It's not for me to judge you and call you wrong or right. So I'm just going to tell you what I was told in my encounter. So my tour guides, I'm gonna call them that, told me that that mankind was created to perfection. We are perfect in every way possible, but we were put in these bodies to experience limitations, to know boundaries. Your physical, as you grow old, your body wears out. That's the reason why we were put in these bodies. is for the experience, to experience this world and this life, and to have an understanding of what it feels like to be limited. That we were perfect. We could do anything that we could dream of, we could imagine, flight, uh, levitate objects, whatever you can think of, you can do it. That's what they told me. And I remember I distinctly asked them, I said, what about all the religions of the world? Which one is right? Which one is wrong? Now, this is the part where I'm not trying to offend anybody. It's just what I was told or shown or what my dream said. They said all of them are right and none of them are right. They were to help mankind understand and to have peace with what they couldn't understand. That religion doesn't matter. It's just something that we have, I guess, created to help us cope with our misunderstanding or lack of understanding of the afterlife. And that's pretty much that experience.
Man,
And that was, like I said, that came as real to me as my alarm clock sitting here beside the bed. I
what
woke.
did they? What? How old were you when this happened?
Oh, that was just like a couple of years ago.
Mm,
I mean, I woke up and I was like perplexed. I was shocked and amazed and just, whoa, I was blown away. I
wow.
mean, something to think about, I guess. I don't know if,
No. Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be thinking about that one tonight.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we're looking for a peaceful understanding of the afterlife. I mean, there's, outside of faith, what proof is there of
Hmm.
anything, really? Like I said, I don't want to offend anybody, any religious people or anything like that. It's just what, how it happened to me. But yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, man. I always enjoy talking to you, man. I appreciate you coming on and telling us some stories and in that last story and that last dream. I 100%. Um, I don't know what I don't. Someone I had someone who was telling me that that religion says and like I said I am I'm not one to believe in secular religion when it comes to churches and things like that because it's just I've never got a good feeling from it. But I believe that there's a higher power. I believe that there's something out there that guides us and helps us make it through this life. Through the bumpy roads and there's something to dreams. Um, I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
there's something about dreams and but with that being said, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you joining me tonight, man. I know it's a little late. I know it's almost 9 o'clock there,
At
or 10 o'clock.
9:41.
Yeah.
Oh, real quick, another detail to add to that story. Um, my tour guides, I guess I call them, they said that in our present state of mind, we were unable to understand what creator is. It's not, it's not a man, it's not a woman, it's not, we don't have a word for what that is. We can't understand what it is
Mm.
right now. And they always say, you only use 10% of your brain because we forgot how to use the 90%. They said that the other 90% is for later.
Mm.
No, I meant to write all the stuff down. I told a couple of people I work with, and they were as perplexed as I was.
Mm.
I thought it was pretty cool. Kind of.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. And like I said, I think there's something to dreams, and I think that we there's a reason why we need to sleep. I don't. People can go, oh, biology, science, but I like to think a little bit more on the I always say the supernatural. Um, I mean, you divide that word up, or you make it into two words. It's supernatural because it is, it is, it could be supernatural.
Yeah.
Derek, I appreciate you joining me, man. I appreciate you staying up a little late with me and telling some of your stories. Any parting words?
Just thank you again for having me. I appreciate you and your audience. You're sharing your audience with me. If the audience, if any of you guys want to add me on Facebook, it's just Derek Morris. I don't know, just look it up. um, yeah, but thanks again for having me. It's been an honor and a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you, my friend. Once again, guys, like, comment after this live stream is over. Go like and comment, like now, and then the Patreon. The link is in the description below. And like I said, I'll be having some pretty good guests coming up on Patreon only, Patreon exclusive. It's $5 a month, and we're gonna be rolling out a lot more. Um, this is Creepy's coming soon here in the next week or so, and then I got two more shows. Um, That'll be there won't be any guests. It'll just be me. But I'm going to be reviewing on Patreon the best of 2024 movies and TV. You never know. I may have somebody on there. This will be in January. I'm trying to fit in everything, man. Christmas, and then it ain't happening. Um, but best of TVs and movies of 2024. That'll be in January, early January, very very early, like right after. And then also the best of the War Cry podcast of 2024. So that'll be clips. It'll be live. Like we're live right now on YouTube. Basically, be going over all the cool stuff that we talked about over in 2024. All the old interviews, the different episodes, and so at the end of this stream, I want you guys to tell me what your favorite episode, story, um, tell me in the comments below. Tell me what your favorite moment of the podcast, episode of the podcast, really what your favorite moment of 2024 was in for the podcast, and I may add that to the stream. We'll see, but I got a few clips that I have ready. One includes Monkey People. This is creepy. One of the This is creepy parts. Um, a couple other guests, but like I said, guys, I appreciate you guys continue to support the podcast, and I appreciate Mr. Derek Morris coming on again for the third time. He's a three-timer on this podcast. I haven't had anybody for three times, but I appreciate him. And but you guys can find me on Warcry Pod on TikTok, Yahola Tiger on Facebook, and I'm trying to think of Warcry Pod on X. Now, I had to crash out over OU football this past weekend or this past day because they lost the Navy. So if you want to see those things and see me crash out, then that's what it is. But I appreciate everyone who continues to support the podcast. Like I said, there's a lot coming in 2025, and we're gonna get this thing rolling. But my name is Yahola Tiger, and I'm the host of Warcry Podcast, and I'm gonna catch you guys on the next one.